This show is brought to you by Main Performance PCs provides a complete solution to get your hardcore sim racing career going. On top of a wide variety of PCs to choose from, Main Performance PC is also the sole distributor for Obutto gaming cockpits in the United States. Coming soon, the MPPC pedal set. Whether it's PCs, gaming cockpits, a high-end pedal set, or other accessories, check them out at mainperformancepc.com. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Darren Ganji, and I'm here with my review of the Thrustmaster T300 wheel and pedal set. And this wheel and pedal set is compatible with the PS3, PS4, and the PC. And this particular review I'm going to do just a quickie, and it's going to be for the PS3. And I tested it with Gran Turismo 6 and Dirt 3. And the reason why I'm separating these reviews is because A, for the PS4 there's nothing available yet to play with this wheel. And B, this wheel is significantly different on the PC versus the PS3. And so I figured might as well separate them, give you owners of PS3s that were considering this wheel a chance to watch this separately from potential owners on the PC. So, first thing I did was compare it to one of its predecessors, and that's the T500. And T500 is the flagship model for Thrustmaster. It is also compatible with the PS3, PS4, and the PC. So I figured I'd do just a direct comparison because I had honestly a lot of questions from my unboxing. And speaking of which, I'm not going to go over a lot of the specs of this package because I talked about them in that unboxing. Again, a lot of the questions that I had were, how does this compare to the T500? First off, I'm going to talk about the wheel weight, or sometimes it's referred to as damper or damping, and basically that's how heavy the wheel turns when you're going left to right. Really nothing to do with the force feedback. It's more just, again, the weight of the wheel. And some of you guys like drifting and they don't want a lot of weight in the wheel, so right off the bat, and I mentioned this in my Gran Turismo 6 review, that the T500 had a heavy feel, or a lot of damping, or again, damper. The T300 doesn't feel like that. It's definitely a much lighter, quicker turning wheel. So if you're looking for more of a heavy weighted wheel, you may want to consider the T500. If you want something that's quick turning, you may want to consider the T300. I honestly like them both, but I'm honestly leaning a little more towards the T300. And I don't know if it's because it's got brushless motors or the motors aren't as powerful, but I really like the way this wheel feels. Next thing is force feedback. And let's take Gran Turismo 6 for instance. On Gran Turismo 6, I have to turn the slider down to 5 or less with the T500. With the T300, I can honestly crank it all the way up and it feels great to me. Honestly, it's not too much, not too little. When I was doing some stuff in the drift mode on Gran Turismo, I turned it down a little bit to lighten up the wheel so it turned quicker. So this rim, this is for the T300. You could also get it with the GTE rim, which I have some footage of here. And that's the 458 GTE Italia rim. That came out for the T500 not too long ago. All rims are cross-compatible. I even tried the TX rim that came out for the Xbox One on this base with Gran Turismo, and everything functioned fine. And I tried the original GT rim from Gran Turismo and the T500, which you can actually buy separately at Thrustmaster's site. All rims were compatible with Gran Turismo. And except for with Gran Turismo 6 and the old GT style rim, I just use the shifter because there's no paddles on that. So back to this rim, almost identical to the GTE rim that came out, the 458 Italia GTE rim, which you can buy as a package with the T300 as well. Same exact price too, I believe. It's branded Ferrari, buttons are a little bit different, whereas this one is, the button configuration is set up specifically for a PS4, where it's got the share and option buttons. It's got the PS button, L2 and R3 up here. Also, there's two buttons here on the base, L3 and R3, which either one's going to have. Both rims are going to be compatible with the PS4 though as well. So Same weight as the GTE rim, same diameter, same rubber grip, metal wheel versus the TX that I mentioned a minute ago was all plastic for the most part. So this is a nicely weighted wheel. Since the GTE came out, I've really liked this rim. Paddles, click them right here in my mic. Nice click, positive shift on the paddles. And I like the button placement. For the PS4, everything's nicely located. It's got a standard D-pad. So that's the rim. On the base, mentioned this in my unboxing, it's got a switch for PS3, PS4. Got to run it in PS3 mode if you're running it on the PS3. I believe you can run it in either mode on the PS4, but if you do that on the PS4 and run it in PS3 mode, it's going to show up as a T500. So that's that. And then there's the pedals. Pedals, you can adjust the faces with a Phillips head screwdriver. Left, you got basically 3 spots left. Up and down you can go. So you got some adjustment there. Basically the same exact pedal face on both sides. And let's talk a little bit about the performance. Probably my biggest complaint with this whole set. I wish this brake had some progression. If it did, this would be a decent set of pedals. Since it doesn't, the brake just really, it's definitely stiffer than the gas, than the throttle. Not much, but there's just no progression or stop like their T3PA pedals, for instance, let's say, which by the way are compatible, and the T500 pedals. So these pedals leave a lot to be desired. I'm not the fondest of these pedals. They do get the job done if you're just starting out. You can definitely race with them. They're better than some of the other stock pedals, let's say like on a Logitech DF-GT. But again, if they would have just added some progression on that brake, I think these could last somebody a long time if they didn't need a clutch. Long enough cord, definitely on both sides, on the USB and on the pedals. So let's go back to Gran Turismo 6 and talk a little bit about some of the adjustments and again the force feedback. You can adjust it between 270 degrees of rotation and 1080, and you do that by pushing to the left or right on the D-pad and at the same time pushing the mode button on the base. I believe 5 times it blinks, that means you're at 1080, 4 times 900, and then it starts going down all the way to 270. One blink is 270. So my frustration was, anytime I either paused the game or went from one session to the next, that degrees of rotation reset on Gran Turismo 6. Now in Dirt 3, that was not the case. So that has nothing to do with this wheel, obviously, and has everything to do with how Polyphony has programmed Gran Turismo 6, because Dirt 3, now here's the thing, Gran Turismo 6, its default is 1080, Dirt 3's default is 270, which wasn't enough for me. So I adjusted that up to 360, and it stayed at 360 the entire time I was playing. Reboot the system and it goes back to 270, but I just had to reconfigure it once. So anyway, you can adjust the degrees of rotation, and hopefully they'll change this or program this differently in PlayStation 4 games, and it's developer specific to where that degrees of rotation sticks. But that is a feature of the wheel and the base, or I should say of the base, to where you can adjust the degrees of rotation. Next up, some viewers had asked about the sound of the cooling fan, and honestly, I don't hear it. I know the T500 had a loud fan, and the TX has a fan that goes off, but honestly, when I'm driving, I have my sound up loud enough where I don't hear that fan, and I think this fan may be a little bit quieter, but I need to run it more on the PC and really heat this thing up, because I can definitely crank the force feedback up higher on the PC and get this thing, working to its max to heat these motors up, as high as possible. I'm assuming there's some kind of thermostat in here that adjusts the fans as far as how fast they're spinning and how long they're on, depending on how hot those motors get. So I don't hear the fan. I ran a bunch of Gran Turismo 6 and Dirt 3 the other day. I didn't hear the fan running, so not an issue to me. Now I'm just going to get to the pros and cons and wrap things up. Like I said, this is just going to be a quickie PS3 review. So first pro, multi-platform compatibility, PS3, PS4, and the PC. Next one, smooth turning. I like how the wheel feels when you're turning it back and forth. I like the amount of damping that's in it. Good feeling force feedback. I could feel the effects nicely in both Gran Turismo 6 and Dirt 3. Two different options to get this wheel, with the PS4/PS3 rim or the GTE rim. So you have some variation if you wanted to have the Ferrari branded stuff or not. This base is compatible with all Thrustmaster rims. And I tried them all on Gran Turismo 6, so they are all cross compatible. The TX rim, the GT rim, the F1 rim, the GTE rim, all work on this base. Also cross-compatible with all the pedals that you can get for Thrustmaster current pedals. The T500 pedals, the T3 PA pedals, and of course the pedals that come with it. Next Pro, smaller base than a T500, and it's not as heavy. So if you have a rig that isn't super substantial and may wobble a little bit, or if you're gonna mount it to a table, which by the way, I didn't really talk about the table clamp, but this thing works great if you're just looking to mount it with this onto a table. Table clamp works just fine. I highly recommend getting a rig though in any form of sim racing and hard mounting it, and it uses the pedals and the base use M6 bolts, so you can get those from your hardware store, or some rigs come with those, like the R seat that I have sitting right here came with M6 bolts to attach your pedals and your wheelbase to. Same hard mount points as a T500, so if you're transitioning from a T500, you have a rig that's compatible with a T500, since this is a new base, same exact drill points, so you don't have to do any drilling on probably the majority of the rigs that are on the market. Next up, no external power supply. I like that this doesn't have an external power supply. May cause some more heating or fan noise, but which again, I mentioned there wasn't much fan noise, but there's no big block as an external power supply with this unit. Next Pro, 1080 degrees of rotation in steps down to 275 different steps, so you can adjust it on the PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4, I'm assuming. So there's the pros. Now I'm going to get to the cons. First cons is, doesn't come with a clutch. Now, one of the things I had mentioned with the TX review that I did was they came with a 2-pedal set, and that was because of their Ferrari branding. Well, this set isn't Ferrari branded, and I would have loved to have seen a set come with the T3 PA pedals, the 3-pedal set with the clutch. And needless to say, you don't need the clutch really unless you're manual shifting, but a lot of guys like to do manual shifting with the TH8RS or the TH8A, which both are compatible with the PS3 and PS4. But as a matter of fact, the TH8A wouldn't work with Dirt 3, but that's a software limitation. Gran Turismo 6 would work great, but I would have liked to have seen a clutch. I mentioned the progression on the brake. That's the next con. No progression on the brake. Would have liked to have seen that as well. Otherwise, it is a decent pedal set. Again, for a starter set, they work fine. Next con, it's a little pricey. I would say you get what you pay for, because I think this is a very high quality base. And I like this rim. But I would have liked to have seen a different set of pedals for $400. And eventually this price will come down, because right now you can get the TX for about $329. So eventually it'll come down, but would have liked to seen it priced a little bit lower. But again, I think you just wait 6 months or so and it should, I'm guessing it's going to come down to mid-300s. So now to my final thoughts. And I mentioned this during my TX, I keep going back to that because that's the last base they came out, and it's very similar. One of the only differences is, or two differences is, 900 degrees of rotation in the TX versus 1080 in this one. And the TX comes with the plastic 458 Italia rim, where this one comes with this substantial, about 10.5 inches in diameter rim, or the GTE rim if you prefer. So I'd like to see Thrustmaster come out with a true ecosystem where you could just buy the base and whatever rim you wanted and whatever pedal set you wanted. So let's say I just wanted this base with the GTE rim and a T3 PA set of pedals. I think that would put it at around $400. So I would like to see Thrustmaster go that direction, but considering they haven't, I still think this is a great wheel and pedal set, and I would definitely recommend it if you were looking for something that's compatible with all three of those systems, PS3, PS4, and the PC, and something that you can again upgrade later, or right when you from the get-go by getting a set of T3PA set of pedals, or you're starting on the console and want to go to the PC. This is a great option for you. So that being said, that's going to wrap things up. Again, this is probably one of my favorite bases right now to use and race with, because again, I can race on multi-platforms, and I really like the feel. I like the weight of the turning, the damping, and I like the force feedback effects that are being transmitted through the base and into the rim. So that's going to wrap things up. Love for you to join us at our website, isrtv.com. Got a link right here. You can click on it if you're on your PC, if you're on your mobile phone or a tablet. Again, just join us at isrtv.com. Lots of stuff going on there. Daily news, blogs. We've got our forum if you're just getting started in sim racing, whether it's on the PS3, PS4, PC, whatever. We've got a great community that will answer your questions. I'm on there daily answering questions, so come and join us. Check it out. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Our news blogs are cross-posted on both of those social media platforms. We'd love for you to subscribe to us here on YouTube and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. We'd really appreciate it. Stay tuned if you're looking for the PC version. And again, I'm just going to talk about this wheel on the PC. I'm not going to use the pedals on the PC. Back there on Frank and Rig, I've got Derek Spear Designs pedals that I'll be using with this base. So I'm just going to be talking about how I've got my wheels set up on iRacing, most likely in Assetto Corsa, maybe even do some project cars, but that's going to be coming soon. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. That's going to wrap things up. I'm Darren Ganji for Inside Sim Racing. See you guys next time.